I want to talk about leatherworking builds, and unfortunately, although I hate the intros, I gotta say a few words. Chapters are under there, feel free to skip ahead. First of all, do know that this is the midnight beta, therefore stuff might change, but we are very close to the early access and the midnight launch itself, therefore I doubt anything would get changed at all. But if it does, I will update you guys. Let's get into the builds. First build I want to discuss is the Master Crafter, and it's going to be the same for the leather and the mail. Therefore, there's going to be just one build for these two. Whichever you decide to spec into, it's going to be the same build, and then later on you need to spec into the other one or make an alt for the other one. Therefore, it's just going to be one build for the Master Crafter build. And if you did anything with the leatherworking profession in the previous expansions, you will feel right at home. I am a hunter main, so I'll be specking into safeguarding skills. Your first priority here is to unlock all of the recipes to have an easier time leveling your profession. Therefore, we will spec 10 points to unlock our first sub-spec, and if you do notice, I didn't need to spend 10 points here to unlock one of these two nodes. That is a bug that I'm hoping it would get fixed. If it doesn't get fixed, however, make sure to spend points in advanced armor first, because I'm sure if it hits the live versions, they will fix it very quickly and they cannot take your points away. I mean, the chances of the live versions ending up with the same bug is quite minimal, but if it happens, do take advantage of it. Anyways, if they fix it, you need to spend 10 points in the main node, then go into advanced armor, max out advanced armor to get all of the recipes. And when you have unlocked all of the recipes, you wanna grab all of the crafting orders that you can, so you can skill up to 100 on your profession. The sooner you skill up to 100, the easier it will be for you to craft high quality gear. When you have maxed out the advanced armor, you won't be delving into each one of these because you want all of the recipes, so you would have an easier time leveling up your profession to 100. Therefore, you will spend 10 more points here to unlock the next sub-spec here. 30 more points here to get all of the recipes. And now you can easily level up to 100 just by grabbing patron orders or public orders just to level up. To be able to craft every single piece of armor at the highest quality without requiring concentration, and to be able to fill out all of those crafting orders, we need every single point of skill available. Therefore, we need to max out the main node first. Then you can choose between different slots and pieces to just max out and be able to craft. The most important thing here is to max out one first, then move to the other. And I personally recommend bracers first and then belts and boots, because these pieces do not interfere with tier pieces, and these are the most in demand slots that people usually craft. You can max out the other ones in any order that you want, but I strongly recommend you get these three first. After maxing out everything, if you do have the highest tier of profession equipment, you can craft every single piece at the highest quality without concentration. But unfortunately, that only works for non-embellished gear. The embellished versions and the unique gear have a recipe difficulty of 400 as opposed to the base versions where they have 380. Therefore, you're missing 20 skill. For you to get that 20 skill, you need to opt into the flawless fortes and spend 30 points in the main node. At this point, you have a few options. Personally, I recommend you go to Learned Leatherworker, unlock resourcefulness to get the most out of the recipes that you already know. This will give you a lot more gold than you would usually get crafting those mail pieces or leather pieces. After maxing out the resourcefulness, you can opt into the lasting leather. Or just get an alt to do leather and get an alt to do mail. It's entirely up to you, but I do recommend you get most of the resourcefulness because that's where the most gold is at. Another option you have is to get into profession equipment because you already have spent 30 points in flawless fortress, so why not spend 30 points into artisanal accessories and craft all of those profession equipment at the highest quality. You can also get an alt for the profession equipment because you need to spend Artisan Moxie to get the recipes. Therefore, that is probably the recommended way to have a tool crafter with the leatherworking profession because at the beginning the Moxie is so valuable that you don't want to waste any of it on the tools as your main crafter. Therefore, take all of this into consideration and choose a path for yourself. Do your research before speccing into any of these because the knowledge points, at least for the season 1, are set in stone. Talking about profession equipment, I gotta say the profession equipment for the leatherworking profession is so easy to set up that I strongly recommend you just put an alt aside for it. It's so easy to get. All you need to do is a bit of Moxie to earn the recipes. You need to get 30 points into flawless fortress and then 30 points into profession equipment, and now the only thing keeping you away from crafting high tier profession equipment is Artisan Moxie. You can craft it easily with just 60 knowledge points. Then you can also go into learned leatherworker, spend 5 points in the main one, get the resourcefulness and get the most out of those profession equipment crafts. Therefore, it is quite great to do casually on an alt. I strongly recommend if you do have an alt and you have no idea what to do, early on you can get a lot of gold out of these tools and profession equipment. On a totally different scenario where you want an alt army build, you can spend 10 points into flawless fortress, only unlocking profession equipment to be able to use optional reagents on them, and then move into learned leatherworker, spend 5 points to unlock the concentrated crafter, max this one out, and then just move back to the main node to get all of the concentration and ingenuity bonuses and just craft it with concentration by just spending 60 points here and 10 points here. You can craft everything to the highest quality and just make a lot of profits, minimally playing for minutes every week on different alts. Therefore, this is also a very good option. Let's talk about a reagent build now. The first thing you need to do is to spend 10 points into flawless fortress to unlock commanding commodities. After unlocking commanding commodities, you have a choice. The main middle node here is only for the basics and you will learn all of the recipes from the trainer. Therefore, at this time, I strongly recommend you either choose between the armor kits or the optional reagents. It's entirely up to you. Personally, I like the armor kits, therefore I will get the armor kits. Then you will go back to commanding commodities, spend 15 more points to unlock the optional reagents. Now you have access to all of the stuff. You can create them, but only with concentration and at a limited supply. Now the point is to get as much skill as possible to craft every single one of these without concentration. Therefore, you will spend 15 more points into commanding commodities to get the skill. And afterwards, you will spend 20 more points into flawless fortress to again get skill when crafting any of these 3 different categories. Now again you have a choice. If you want to be an armor kit crafter, you will first max out crucial consumables. If you want to create basic reagents, hides and stuff, you will max out brimming basics. Or for the overwhelming optionals as optional reagents. Again, I personally like armor kits. Therefore, First the armor kits, then the basic reagents, and as the last thing that you do, you will max out overwhelming optionals. Now I do want to mention that in the previous expansions, these optional reagents lost value very quickly. Therefore, personally, I won't spec into it. I will just unlock the devouring banding and be done with it. If it seems to be doing well and be good, I would probably spec into it later on. But in my experience, the optional reagents most of the time lost value very quickly. Therefore, I will skip this one. Whichever way you end up going, after maxing out these nodes in the Flawless Fortress, you want to go to the Learn the Leatherworker. First get the multi-craft, because you're crafting reagents and a lot of profit comes from multi-craft. And after maxing out multi-craft, spend 10 more points to get the resourcefulness. Now this build has an Alt-Army concentration variant too, so let's discuss that one. The Alt-Army version is again quite simple because it is very straightforward. You need to spend 10 points in the Flawless 4 days to unlock stuff. First thing you need to choose again is to either choose between crucial consumables and optional reagents. You won't be spending any more points here because the whole point of an Alt-Army is to minimize playtime and get the most profit out of that very few minutes that you play every week to get gold out of these alts. Therefore, you won't be going back to commanding commodities. You will just unlock one of them and be done with it. Only 10 points. Now I have the armor kits, I can craft the armor kits with the concentration, and I will go to Learn Leatherworker, spend 5 points here to get the concentrated crafter. I will get the concentrated crafter to the maximum, then go back to the main node, spend 10 points here to get the multi-craft because we're talking about armor kits here. Max out the multi-craft because more multi-craft, more gold, and then again go back to Learn Leatherworker and spend the excess knowledge point that I have in the Learn Leatherworker. If you do end up playing that alt, you can opt in for resourcefulness too to get procs of resourcefulness and get more gold when crafting stuff. Therefore, the only points that you are spending in the Flawless Fortress are the main 10 ones to unlock the recipes. Whichever you decide. If you do decide to get the armor kits, get the armor kits. If you do decide to get the optional reagents, just spend 10 points to get the optional reagents. It's very simple and very effective. These are the two builds that seems to be the most profitable one. There is another build that is way more simpler because you don't even need to spend 10 points here to craft this stuff, and that's the basic reagents. Doesn't matter what you want to craft because we have a lot of basic reagents here. The infused scale woven hide, the scale woven hide, the silver moon weapon wrap, and the Sindore armor banding. These are all basic reagents. And you can craft them without speccing into them. If you do have knowledge points, spec into this one to get the most out of ingenuity, concentration, multi-craft, and resourcefulness in that order. Therefore, leatherworking is quite great as an Alt-Army profession. You can do a lot with it and you don't need to spend much to get it going. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you do end up liking the video, well, I appreciate it greatly, and I will see you in another one. Bye bye.